I've been writing my whole life. I mean, I think like in school, like even starting in elementary school, like nothing ever sat with me. But with writing, it was always interesting because I could use my imagination first, and there was never a right or a wrong answer. It was just like whatever idea I had. I think even then I knew that, you know, writing is who I am and what I am, and now it's everything to me. You know, that's my escape. That's my peace of mind. So, you know, although I can personally identify with the job a lot, like that's not who I am. Like I do love bartending. I was a distiller at one point in time and I loved that, but like we're all so much more than the way we get paid. Also learning about like, you know, how much you have to take care of yourself, you know, so where the writing of at one point in time was about life and was about people and things that were coming at me. Now it feels like my experience from my heart and soul, and then I'm gonna put it out there, and like you're gonna either, you know, personify my art in your own way and rectify it, or you're gonna see the difference from the way I feel and the way you feel, and find art in that too. I want you to understand the way I feel about something, you know what I mean? So like, if I write about a piece, I want you to understand that this is how I felt in that moment, although I don't feel that way anymore. Like you still need to like grab that emotion. Like a piece that I always draw to, like when I talk about that, it's like one of the last sad poems in a book I finished and hope to self-publish called Pizza and Beer Money. It's the last sad piece in the book. It's called Heartburn. And it's a piece definitely about feeling lonely and being like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it feels like, you know, as a guy who's always single and there's relationships around me, like this is how I feel. And the piece is called Heartburn. And it's like, everyone in the city that night seemed to be holding hands, like 1,000 fucking relationships twisting and weaving in the streets, pulled together close like pretzel. Everyone in the city but me. I was walking in between carrying a brown paper bag, Five Guys burgers and fries and cheap bourbon inside. I had the worst heartburn that night. And although that's not the way I feel anymore, and it doesn't feel like I'm walking around a bunch of relationships and I'm continuously, metaphorically and literally giving myself heartburn, like, doesn't mean I need to shy away from that. So I think perspective is important because like that's how I feel in that moment, and I can let go of that too. So you ultimately get to choose however you want to feel, like at every moment of every day. And I've always been an emotional person. So I think writing specifically has given me the power to put like a, you know, my own foil, if you will, my own wrapping over it. Like I can feel however I want, and if I've had a bad day, let me come home, let me grab my pen, let me get on my typewriter, let me put this down into a piece that I can share with people, because this is my medium, this is my art, this is how I express myself. So expressing myself is very much how I liberate myself from that bad emotion. But there's also times where like there were things that I didn't think I would bring up, you know, so I'm writing, and like the best pieces I've written were the ones that make me cry after, that make me feel like, oh, I've let go of something. I mean, I think us as humans, we all definitely look to strive for pleasure and look to avoid pain. So I think if we could all live a pain-free, trauma-free life, we would, but that's just not the case. And I think at every time that you like have been hit with something, like you need to learn from it. And I think for me, what's become my demon, my writing point is like over the winter as I was writing Pizza and Beer Money, and I definitely got into the more depressing parts of the book, like I fully believe I wrote myself into a depression. Like, and I hit this manic episode where every signal that my brain was hitting was negative. Like people felt like actors to me. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like it definitely felt like I took everything in life for granted. And so for me, it's like, not that I wanted that, but I needed that to happen, because now I feel so much for other people, where like I've suffered, and now I don't want suffering, and now I see suffering as a chance to help people. So I almost feel like I've become an advocate for change, and I've become like a mental health champion, where like, all right, hey, let me help other people, let my art help other people. So I feel like that life experience personally has now changed my art from just me kind of brooding over women and alcohol to being like, all right, like let's stand for something. You know, so now I feel like I write a lot about the human spirit and about perseverance. I wrote a piece recently that became one of the last pieces in Pizza and Beer Money. It's called Galaxy. It's one of my very favorite pieces. It speaks a lot about how powerful the human mind is. And Galaxy goes, from today on, I want you to live your life knowing each and every single one of us have enough neurons in our brains to outnumber stars in the Milky Way. We create enough nerve connections to be considered singular solar systems, and this is no exaggeration. We have taken a photograph of a black hole. something previously thought impossible, and yet we understand so very little of this mechanism we use to defy odds. Humans know more of the unknown than we do our own ingenuity, leading me to believe infinite space is in fact less limitless than creativity. So I'm going to tell you, be whatever you want to be. Be limitless, be remarkable, be brand new, and do not yield at those dark doors. There is a light at the bottom of that crushed center. There is a photograph. I have seen it. All forms of matter bend space and time. So today and today onward, matter a little more. Matter enough to the universe and treat each of your 100 billion neurons like stars, baby. Keep on believing in that imagination you have, because that is our truest purpose, to comprehend what each of us are capable of. You are your own galaxy. No telescope necessary. Been writing my whole life, poetry for 5 years, but I've really only been performing for like 14 months. Like my best friend moved to Nashville with his fiance, and I think I needed a way to like fill the void and fill in the time. And it was kind of an accident. I discovered Bullfini's, and I do poetry every Tuesday at 8 there with a great group of people. And like all of us have established that we are all fucking nervous every time we're on the stage. But there used to be times where I'd get up there with my book and I couldn't stop shaking. You know what I mean? And like the first time I was ever on stage was performing a speech with Spencer's girlfriend Molly in high school, and I fucking cried on stage in front of like 500 people in my entire school about not wishing your time away. It was that line, do not wish your time away. I was speaking to the juniors as a senior, and like that whole sentiment still speaks to me. We're like, live in the moment, like don't wish time away. But I'm still the same nervous wreck every time I'm on stage, even 8 people, 20 people. The biggest audience I've ever done is 40 people. But now it's like, I've said to myself, like as scared as I get, as vulnerable as I feel, like my skin feels raw sometimes. I'm up there because I'm giving you like, hey, here's a part of myself that I don't share, that I don't even know if I want to share. And you are all complete strangers, but like for me at the same time, I know I need it. Like I need to keep pushing myself. Like I need that vulnerability. I need to like project. I need to put my art out there. Like, and I know the type of person as an artist that I want to be. Like this is the first step. You got to keep going. So like that duality for me, and even like as much as like me sitting in my room with my fucking $30 mic and my MacBook Pro that doesn't take a charge, like I like practicing just to get your diction right. I think is so important too, and just like not being scared to fuck up, you know what I mean, and make mistakes. That's life too. But I mean, you have an audience of people who are all gonna feel a different way. I mean, there's pieces where like people have like balked at the sentence that I didn't even think they would go at. You know what I mean? There's people that kind of like snap and go at parts that I didn't even think that they would like respond in that way. And it's so interesting how like human emotion and experience like works in that way, because like that just felt like a sentence to me. Like that felt like nothing. And then to them it's like I'm speaking their truth to them. And so that for me is such a driving force, because like I could get up there, read a dark piece, read a vulnerable piece, read a healing piece, read a positive piece, and at some point, some part of that piece, because it's the truth for me, like somebody's gonna connect with it. But you also can't let the way the crowd reacts like stop you. You know what I mean? Like if I let everybody's opinion like dictate how I was a writer, like I'd feel like a robot. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be genuine, I wouldn't be authentic, I would be what you want from me. But at the same time, like, man, that does make me nervous that like, what if they don't pick up the emotion that I want them to? So you gotta walk that line. So for young writers, honestly, for me, it's like before you know it, it's day and night, it's day and night, it's day and night, it's day and night. You've had a week. Like, what did you create? You know what I mean? So like on each day, like live your life. Like don't let creativity, don't let the process stop you from living, because the better you live, the more life experiences, the more lessons you learn, the better the writings become. The better I've become as a person, as a man, and trying to do good in this world, the better the writing has become. And whether they're mutually exclusive or not, I don't know. For me, it feels like the better the writing became, the better the man behind the pen became. And maybe it's the other way around. But you just keep writing. And you keep writing because it clarifies your thought. It clarifies like the way you're feeling. It allows you to, like for me, I was always like it was blurred lines of emotions. Like it almost felt like I felt so many things that I felt nothing. And then I would write and it's like, all right, that's what that emotion feels like. You know what I mean? So for me, like I would tell them, you know, keep writing. Like don't be afraid to write. Like don't be afraid to feel raw. Like put exactly what's in your head on paper. Like stop hiding that, especially guys. Like I think so many times guys are afraid to open up. And maybe I'm too open, and maybe I need to keep my cards closer to myself, you know, as my dad would tell me. But like, I don't know, put it out there. Like somebody's gonna connect with it. Like you can help somebody. You know what I mean? Like yeah, there's stuff that I don't always like feel super proud to write about, like stuff where I'm like, wish I would have done that differently. But you still put it on the paper, and then a month from now you're gonna look at that and be like, I don't feel that way no more, or that's a piece that I grew from. As cliche as it sounds, you just keep writing. You just keep writing. Write every day. Like, it's getting to a point now for me where I want to write 1,000 words a day. Like, if I could write 1,000 words one day a week, that's productive. But just keep writing. Just keep living, keep writing, and like as you learn stuff, put it on the paper, and like then your prose gets better. I got another piece I'd like to perform for you. This is called Alive, Kicking and Screaming, and this is new shit for me. And at poetry night, we'd always say new shit to kind of like amp up the crowd and say like this is a new piece. So this is new shit for me. This is Alive, Kicking and Screaming. It goes, I don't pretend to know you or them or any of this. I tend to leave my crystal ball at home nowadays, for even the weatherman can get it wrong, and even we can make a mirage of our own desert. Nor do I offer much advice on how to swim or fall in love, for the tides take me under too, and I understand how difficult the storm may seem. But I do know I come from a family of seasoned sailors with their own scars who captained ships with names of their worst storms, and onward they still sail despite the broken appearance of their tired boat. And so I live confidently with the belief that I do not face this ever-changing direction of wind alone, and the fog will soon pass should I choose to say how I really feel about it. So take my hand when the light goes out. And do not fret at my goosebumps, for I too feel alone and am not afraid to admit it. But we can get no closer than this moment now, so squeeze tight and fight, fight, fight. Another day, the only way we know how. Alive, kicking and screaming. So for me, when I wrote that piece, it's a lot about like the human spirit and perseverance, and how like, no matter how fucking broken, no matter how bad the ship seems, like, you know, like it still goes. Like we still swim. You know, you keep going, and it's like you're either gonna let everything beat you and you're gonna fall underneath, or you're gonna rise above it. And it's like as long as your heart's good, your head's good, you know, and you got people that support you, like you'd be surprised how far you can get in a storm. And I don't think that was energy I ever could have channeled until I went through a storm. And I don't mean to keep putting metaphors into just the way I speak, but that like it's true. Like you can't generate something like that until you've gone through it. And like I love the pieces that I'm writing now because I can look back on difficult times and say, yeah, I've lived through every one of my worst days, and there will be days that are worse again. You know what I mean? But you keep going, you keep fighting. Like you got things you want to work for, you want to make it to the shore. And I think, you know, letting all those things like happen is how better art happens, for sure. So you know, that's kind of why I keep creating. The last piece is called Hope, and I think all the best stories end with that good ending. So the last piece of the book is called Hope, and it's a short piece, but I think it's the most beautiful. It's, and when the snow melts and the flowers blooming free again, and the wind feels more friend than foe, I'll look fervently to the sky, wipe cobwebs from these tired eyes, and know it's you in the distance. Hope. And I think that was important for me too, because I kind of went from being a negative person and thinking that it was never going to get better and life never was going to get better to, hey, it's good as you make it. So it's nice to finish that project and kind of move on. Now I feel like I'm free writing again. So your mind plays tricks on you, and you can't always trust your memory. Like there'll be moments day to day where I'm like, well, I remember this in my life. Like things seemed easier then. Like how is that fair to you? Like how is that fair for you to say that like at a different moment in your life, like at a different point, things felt easier? You're forgetting the things that still like were problematic, that were still plaguing your day-to-day life. So when you write, you're like, this is the full circle. This is the block. This is the sphere I'm living in right now. Like, don't forget this. I don't know any secrets. I haven't figured out life. I feel like I figured out my life, but what I have discovered is that it really is what you create. And if you find yourself feeling nostalgic and you miss the past, like just remember the past is the past. And if you want to create better memories, and create some memories. Like this is a day I'll never forget now. Like this could be the start for all of us in a different way. I mean, this could be a whole new thing for all of us. And like, don't ever be afraid to start again. Like we have two great sunrises of our life. When we're born, that sense of magnificent discovery as a child, and then we have that dawn, that beginning where everything is new and the fog is lifted. Like life can be about new beginnings if you want it to be. And I think that if you're open to it and you're receptive to change, that change is gonna happen. And remember that we're never the same person. And that for me, if you want art to feel more like self-help and therapy, then let art be self-help and therapy. And if you need to, do whatever it takes in the meantime to be better, then be better, and read more. How's that?